Hello there and welcome to Melbourne Real, coming to you live and direct from the world's most the world's most livable city, Melbourne, Australia. I'm your host, Tony Jack the Bear Mantz. I'm an inspirational speaker and a master engineer, and along with my co-host, singer and songwriter from Dan the Maps, knower of many things, a very suave, debonair and handsome Mr. Martin Green.
Good morning.
Hey, mate. And I'm very excited about today because we're joined by a guy who I've been wanting to get on for a little while, and he's been kind enough and generous enough with his time to come along today to have a chat with us. Welcome to Mr. Harry Sandhu from Team Boss.
Hi guys.
Morning, Harry.
How are you, Harry?
Very well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
No worries, man. I mean, Harry's about to fly out to India today to do a seminar over there, and he's flying out tonight, and he had to battle the traffic this morning. So again, man, thanks for
My pleasure, mate.
Thanks for jumping through the hoops.
Stuffed you guys around long
No,
enough.
not at all. No, everything happens for a reason, and it's all happening now. So welcome and thanks for coming. And
Thank you.
so Harry, tell us a little bit about Team Boss. How long has Team Boss been around for? What is Team Boss? The philosophy of Team Boss, what you do, and also a little bit about yourself and how your journey into fitness and health, and of course we'll talk a little bit more about India and the seminar and what you'll be doing. But let's start with how did you get involved in fitness and health, and how Team Boss came to be, and what Team Boss does.
Right, okay. So what I'll do is I'll answer the second question first, and then we'll go to the Team
Sure.
Boss. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, what my journey is. I started way back in 1993. That is my first memory of walking into a gym. Little gym in India, so very tiny gym. So that's where I started from. I did my first powerlifting comp. My base is from powerlifting and playing cricket and athletics in school. So I did my first competition in 1995, and then I was just stayed in the local gym there. Started helping out the other guys who were competing just locally or just wanted to put on a bit of muscle. And I was pretty young. I was in my teens at the time. And then I came to Australia in 1998. So I lived in Canberra for a few years. Then I moved to Melbourne in 2005. And even after I moved to Australia, I was always an avid sports person. My dad was an international level athlete and very fit.
What sport?
Athletics.
Athletics,
He was an all-round more like
a decathlete type of guy?
Decathlete kind of, yeah, exactly. So my dad had a lot of influence on both of us in terms of fitness, and I was very fortunate to actually have come to Australia. I always feel that if I had not come to Australia, probably I wouldn't be where I am today, because when I was back in mid-90s, there was very little culture of fitness being a profession. People train, but there was no such concept of trainers as such, unless you were in the Bollywood, unless you were in the biggest cities. So if hadn't I come to Australia, probably I wouldn't be here where I am today. And so 1998, so I was at the height, then I started working in a local gym, and then, long story short, I moved to Melbourne, and then started training people in Melbourne. Just took whatever I had in Canberra, just came here. Went to uni, did my degree in exercise and sports science, and I majored in sports nutrition. Along the way, you do multiple certifications over the years, learning from the best coaches I've consulted. Some of the best coaches from across the globe, whether they're bodybuilding coaches, whether they're holistic coaches, or anyone. I'm very open-minded. I think sometimes we make the mistake of segregating health, and you can't actually do one without the other. The best bodybuilders in the world in current day and age, they're all very health-oriented. So if you're not healthy from inside, outside is not going to work. And then I just fell into contest prep many years ago. I trained one person and the next and the next. You have your fair share of challenges with anything. People say, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. So I never really worried too much about anything. If I believed in something, I just went after it. But one thing I always say with that is, my personal experiences, believing in yourself is all well and good, but you have to identify if you're actually going to be capable of it. It's all well and good for me to believe in myself that I want to go and play NBA, or I'm going to go and play Usain Bolt. It's all well and good to back yourself, but you have to accept and appreciate your limitations as well, which I think is a lot of people actually it's not to dissuade people from not following their dreams, but you have to appreciate whether that something is within your reach.
But it is to dissuade people from jumping off the roof thinking they can fly. There's some limitations there.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Potentially, and not saying you can't fly. I'm saying you need to be some pretty fucking meditative shit to get that to get that flying capabilities.
No matter how much weight I lose, I will not be a jockey in next year's Melbourne Cup.
Boom.
That's exactly right.
Boom.
Yeah, that's it. So then Melbourne's been great to me. I think I truly belong here, in every sense of the word. Look, as I said, I would not want to be anywhere else in the world. It's been an absolute blessing. I love everything about it, and the people have been great to me. Especially coming from the subcontinent, and I've never had any resistance in terms of clients or anything. And then Team Boss was just an extension of Actually, there's a funny story behind it,
Go on.
So this is where I like to tell people, the initial name of my business was Peak Performance, right? Then I named it Harry Sandhu Fitness for a while and all that. Then I sat back one day and I look at, it's still my baby at the end of the day. It's still my company. It's still my creation, everything. So I said, unless you've got a name like James Bond or Donald Trump, it's like which just works. We leave aside what people think of Donald Trump, but he's got the surname that actually which works. It naturally is cool sounding. I unfortunately don't have a cool sounding surname, so it never really was going to catch on. So you know what? And at the time, this was just going around. Everyone was a couple of years ago. Everything like a boss. Everything was like a boss. I was like, this is cool. How about if I use this? And it really resonated me. It wasn't like Jack can probably relate to this. You've got a lot of tattoos, and you sometimes ask people, "Oh, why did you get this tattoo for?" Well, I don't know. It just they can't explain to you. I just had it. I was drunk and felt like getting a tattoo. And next thing you realize they got a sleeve.
And I went to a very unprofessional tattoo artist who knew I was drunk and tattooed me anyway. Yeah, that's right.
So,
the truth be known, I was stoned as fuck the day I got my first tattoo. It's a true story. Martin was there with me. We documented it. I'll show the video one day, Harry. Anyway, sorry I digress, but
no.
Go on.
So. And it really, it's something that it just gravitated me towards it. I said, I could think million possibilities from that word, And that's how it evolved. And then initially it was just a fitness company. Now we've sort of diversified into a lot of different things, and we work in a lot of projects, mainly my business is primarily set in 2 or 3 distinct areas, you can say. I mean, obviously, my majority of my clients are all contest prep clients, all over the world, in Australia, US, Canada, India, UK. And second part of my business is public speaking, really. So I travel around the world and going and delivering talks. As you were mentioned before, I'm off to India today on a 7-city tour. And part of that is obviously I'm running the practical courses covering the advanced bodybuilding and training techniques. And then another part of that is I'm running a theory which is called Advanced Transformation Techniques and Methodologies, and I'm also delivering a couple of talks at an expo in India, in Delhi, called FitX. So one is on nutrition and fat loss, and the second part is the second talk is primarily about how to build a global fitness business or whatever, And when I was little, this is a funny story. When I was little, they used to bag the hell out of me when I was a child up until my teens. All my family and friends, and they were going like, "Harry, shut up! You talk too much." And people say like, "Oh, if I only got $1 for every time I opened my mouth, even 5 cents, I would be worth something." And now, and I remember, when I did one of my first talks, and my brother, I spoke to him, he goes, "Man, I can't believe people actually pay to come to hear you."
Nice. Yeah.
So it's like, and I think talking is something that's coming naturally to me.
But it's the ultimate thing. I think to get paid to do what you love to do, just quite naturally. I think that's the dream, and...
I spent my work. If you ask my wife, she'll tell you that I'm actually married to my computer and my work and on the phone. And Jack can tell you. So my average day is 18 hours work, literally 16 to 18 hours.
No,
is
you
my
do.
Work.
You put in. There's no doubt about it. And I think you have to. I think working at a. I mean, I don't do 18-hour days myself. However, However, having said that, I think that kind of thing is also a choice and a lifestyle thing. I mean, I had an interesting read of Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week, another 4-hour week.
That sounds more reasonable to me.
I mean, I tend to, I don't know if I'll ever get to 18 hours a day, but I can understand how people can do. At the end of the day, here's the thing: if you love what you do, if it is your passion, if it's your every waking hour, you're there. It's to the average person, 18 hours, get fucked, no way. But
the only reason they say get fucked no way is because you're putting the word work in that sentence. You're saying 18 hours work, but if it's 18 hours doing something, there are more than 18 hours waking. There are 18 waking hours in the day. How many? Hang on a second. It's only 24. When do you sleep, man? What do you get 6? So that's at 6 hours
that
sleep.
That is one question. I was talking to a friend of mine in Canada just now. And the first thing that I spoke to her for an hour, and the first thing she asked me was, when do you sleep?
Yeah.
That is one. Actually, I never really appreciated it until a few months ago, and then, people also like, mate, it doesn't matter what time of the day is, where we are, you always seem to be up. And it's true, people always say, don't you feel like you work so much? So when you take time off, I sort of feel like I'm on a constant holiday. It never feels like work, Yet, as you said, Martin, to an outsider, it's a lot of work. But it's to me. But by the same token, I also want to say people only see, and this is not, I don't want it to sound cliche, but people often see, your exterior, the people often see, I'm not saying there aren't lucky, successful people out there. There is always an element of luck. You need to be in the right place, the right time, and chips have to fall your way as well. But now that I'm getting older and I can see it from my own sitting on the other side of the fence, there really is no secret to success. You want to get to that level, you've got to put in the hours.
Sure.
There is just no, especially if you're a budding entrepreneur and you're starting out and you haven't got that $1 million in the bank, you haven't got the consortium behind you. And I'm my PA, I am my CEO, I am my everything.
Same. Yeah, and as is Martin, exactly the same thing. You're absolutely right. But I think, as I've often said in my talks from time to time, you're talking about seeing people and the veneer of success, and yet it's like an iceberg. I said people only see the 10% that's above the waterline, but people don't see the amount of times you failed, the amount of times you lost money, the heartache, the tears, the disappointments, the setbacks, which is part and parcel. I mean, it's not always 90 to 10 ratio, but for the most part, people just see the money or the cars or the accolades or the profile and don't realize that all of us have been on our own journey. We're still on our journey, and we're still going to deal with disappointment. We're still going to deal with heartache. We're still going to all these things, the negatives, if you will. But this is where you build your resolve. This is where you build your strength. This is where you build your character, and this is what gets you going and keep punching through the barriers.
Right. The number of times that on number of things that I could have easily just gone, this is just not going to work. This is just way too hard. This is not going to work. Like classic example is, setting up a tour for 7-8 cities in another country and you're trying to execute it. Number of times you go, the ticket sales aren't happening, or this is not happening. Very easy to just turn around and just go, this
cancel the tour.
People get nervous of failure. You know what? When I first started in fitness, I built my business from scratch. Literally, I walked into a gym and they said, okay, the next thing I realized you had to actually get your own business because you were not getting it. So I said, you know what? Okay, what am I going to do? So I just spoke to every single person on the gym floor, whether they were big, fat, old, young, healthy, skinny, model, whatever. That's when this ideology in me, it really sort of got embedded in me was, what is the worst that'll happen?
Hey, when you walked into this gym, you were already sharp, right? Because you already done powerlifting and all that?
You know what? Actually, I'm probably the least looking personal trainer you'll ever meet. I'm not a big guy.
No, but that's a good start. Yeah. Because a lot of the people that go to those gyms are big guys, right?
Yes. To answer your question, yes. Sorry. To answer your question, I backed my knowledge. So I was, when you said sharp in the sense of like I had this.
I don't mean Arnold. I just mean fucking sharp, y'all. Yeah,
I was on. I was turbocharged. I would walk in the gym at 6 a.m. I would be there till 8 p.m. And there'll be days that I would speak to 50 people, 60 people, and 55 people would say no to you to a complimentary session.
Sales, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
It's sales. But I was sharp in the sense I was switched. I always took pride in my appearance. I always had my name badge, everything. I was on, and I was prepared for noise. That even everything I do, I always go, what's the worst that'll happen? I'm not going to die.
That's
no,
sure.
I live for another day. I'm just going to say no, man.
They'll say, oh, you failed. At least I failed trying.
Yeah, but those odds that you said before are awesome. You said 55 out of 80 said no. That's, what is that, 15 that are... What's my maths? What's it, 25 or something? That's a sweet conversion rate, man.
Well, as I tell kids to at talks, and they giggle at it, but it's true. You need to almost develop an almost a perverse enjoyment in rejection.
Oh, sure.
I did say, what they would teach you in I've done a number of jobs over the years. I also worked as a sales trainer in a call center as well, and sometimes you get people who are a little sensitive. So actually, we say, I don't know what's the word that you use. Actually, you say, not an alter ego as such, but hey, if your name is Jack, just call yourself Tony on the phone.
Yeah, alter ego, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Alter ego,
So you actually, and they're not yelling at Jack, they're yelling at Tony.
Tony takes all the bullshit.
A pseudonym.
Yeah.
A pseudonym.
Yeah. Nom de plume.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
There you go.
So listen, one topic that I think people that are watching and listening to this, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that fat loss is probably one of the most the biggest mysteries for most people. Yeah, sure. Most people out there who train usually start from a place of being overweight.
Yep.
And there's so much information and misinformation out there. I know myself, when I was at 170 odd kilos, I adopted Tim Ferriss's no carb plan, and that helped me go a long way. But in the interim, I've looked at Dave Asprey and Bulletproof and various other different other protocols. So if you're now dealing with someone who is coming to training for the very first time, they need to lose some pounds. Let's not worry about excessively obese, but someone that needs to lose 10, 15 kilos, let's say, which is still quite a amount of weight. In your experience, in your opinion, Harry, where do you think is the best place to start with their training and dieting?
Mine.
Boom.
Bang.
100%.
Of course.
Yep.
No diet is going to work if it's not going to work. The 2-3 things are, every diet will work to a certain level, depending on where the person is. When I say the mind is, it's like if you're mentally not ready to do something, it does not matter how good it is, you're not going to do it. Right. Say, for instance, I ask people, okay, what are you willing to compromise? What are you willing to give up? Right. And then they say, okay, I'm willing to do everything. You tell me everything, then I delve deeper into it. People have good intentions. Intentions don't always convert into actions. Now, there are variables for that. Without going on a different track, keeping it simple, it's like, say, I have the best intention. But if my lifestyle is that I'm getting up at 5 o'clock and I'm walking out of the house at 5:20, even if my coaches give me you got to eat a gourmet breakfast and you got to eat it, and I'm saying yes, I will do it. But if it's practically not going to work, then it's not going to work. So sometimes you have to go beyond it. So first place is mine. The second thing is see what's going to work for them. I could tell you, okay, deep sea Atlantic salmon is the best fish to eat. But if the person's a vegetarian, not going to work. Or the person doesn't like fish, it's not going to work. If a person's lifestyle is very demanding and they are not going to be sustained that diet or whatever, then you have to find, in terms of moving to practical side of things, it comes down to here's a myth that this is a long held belief that I'm going to go out here on a limb. I'm going to go out here on a limb, okay? This is going to
bust.
This is going to blow a lot of people's minds, okay? Crash dieting is actually more effective than slow weight loss. They did a research study in Melbourne itself last year where they proved crash dieting, where you're actually losing the weight, it's no more harmful than losing weight.
How would you define crash diet? Are we talking about intermittent fasting, or are we talking about
any protocol? So it's like going extreme.
So going from whatever I'm doing now to like the Atkins diet today, and just that for 3 weeks.
That's it, going extreme.
Right.
Not. It's like you're not doing anything. So you're
doing,
so 5 hours of walking, 10 hours of walking, everything. But that comes with the caveat. The critical thing is you can do any crash dieting as long as, let's say if you lose 10 kilos. Out of those 10 kilos, if you lose, say, 6 kilos of fat and 4 kilos of muscle, crash, slow, long duration, no diet is going to work in the long term, because what's happened is you ultimately slowed your metabolism down. So the key is you can lose any weight in any amount of time. The non-negotiable is if you lose more muscle than where your metabolism was started at, you will always go backwards. Ultimately, simple as that. If you started on 50 kilos muscle and you had 40 kilos of fat, you lose 40 kilos of, say, 30 kilos of fat, and you lose 15 kilos of muscle as well. Doesn't matter how much weight you've lost overall, you will put the weight back on because your metabolism is slowed down. So your body's ability to burn the calories has gone down.
So how do we sort out that metabolism?
Here's the thing. So anyone who starts, the simple advice is, people say, okay, I'm going to shed the kilos first, and then I'm going to start putting the muscle. Then I'm going to start weight training. It's actually a lot better now, but that myth is still perpetuated in a lot of places. I still hear it. I mean, I sometimes forget, I learned this thing such a long time ago, and you don't appreciate that people actually, there are a lot of 20-year-olds now, and there are a lot of 40-year-old people who actually first time understanding what is a carbohydrate or what is a protein even. Mm-hmm. So I have to keep reminding myself, not everyone actually knows this information. So the best place to start is somebody asked me, at what percentage should I start putting on muscle? I said, every percentage. Every body fat percentage you should be putting on muscle. It doesn't matter whether you're at 40% or you're 8%. Your ultimate goal is, so if you're 120 kilos and you need to lose weight, you start off with weight training. So if you only have, say, to put it in tangible, practical terms, let's say you can only go to the gym 45 minutes 4 times a week or 5 times a week. That's what's practical for most people, 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to go to if you want results, you need to put in that much effort.
Does that mean the end result will always be a muscly dude?
Never.
A muscly person?
The end result will be you'll be very lucky to look anywhere near muscly.
Because you're already massive.
No. But putting on muscle is a very, very hard thing.
Right.
Extremely hard, especially for women who have 30 to 40 times lesser testosterone than men.
Sure.
And they just do not put on. I think what has actually happened is, unfortunately for the general public, is a lot of these muscle models and a lot of these big physiques have permeated the mainstream. Earlier, it was only the realm of the bodybuilder, so there was no in between.
Right.
So if you go back in the 80s, you either had big bodybuilders or you had average Joe Blow.
With the exception of Bruce Lee, who was awesome.
Right. See, but the interesting thing with Bruce Lee was lean, but he was never a big guy.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So that physique is possible without steroids. Very much so. Very much so. For anyone, most people can achieve that. But a lot of people don't appreciate that Bruce Lee put in a lot of effort into his training. He was so far ahead of his time
that his heart exploded. Yeah,
exactly. He was so far.
Sorry, Bruce.
No, that's okay.
Sorry, Cardi.
Yeah, so, okay. So you're saying that if you were to train the gym and put a lot of time in, you wouldn't necessarily get big. But having said that, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there are training protocols for muscle hypertrophy, though.
Yep.
So there's certain different. Is it different? Is it weight? Is it because of weights or repetitions? Because again, depending on if you're a marathon runner and you just want to train for endurance and stamina, obviously no muscle. But so what are the differences, I guess, in the training for those who want muscle hypertrophy as opposed to those who are looking for someone like myself who just wants good conditioning, a balanced physique and balanced conditioning as opposed to just pure muscle hypertrophy?
Sure. Okay. I'll answer that question in 2 parts for you.
Sure.
I'll answer the second one first again. Sorry, not trying.
You got a habit of doing that, Harry. It's all right.
Is that okay? People ask me, I don't want to look like that guy. I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. I don't want to look like this. I just only want to tone. I want to lose a few kilos. Here's an analogy I like to use. If you wanted to pick any sport, pick any profession, right?
Synchronized swimming.
You guys are musicians, right?
Right.
So you can probably relate to it. Slash is a good guitarist.
I think so. Yes.
I mean, I'm part of my. I don't know.
I'm aware of his work. It was pretty good. Yeah.
He was pretty good.
Yeah.
So if somebody said to you that I don't want to play like Slash, I just want to basically learn, wouldn't you apply the same principles to begin with to start learning the process? So you look at the best of the best, who's the best teacher in the world. You would use those principles, right?
Scales.
To start.
Learn scales and basic riffs and
some chords and some rudiments. Yes.
Right. Now, to get to that level, okay, so you learn the basics. You get to that level of the elite guitarist, right? Elite bass player or whatever. You need to go from putting in 45 minutes a day to an hour, 2, 5, 6, 10 hours a day, right? The principles never change. It's the effort, it's the commitment that changes for you to get there.
Sure.
So if I want to play like Roger Federer, if I want my son to play like Federer, I'm going to use the same principles what his coach is teaching 5-year-old kids across the globe.
Was Federer a good guitarist?
He's racket.
Good with
His
the racket.
racket skills are amazing.
Racket skills are amazing. So to answer the question, like the training for somebody who wants to just look good in clothes and drop 10 kilos, 20 kilos, or want to train like Mr. Olympia, the principles are absolutely the same. You would still train exactly. So you would train no different to say who's current Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath. The only things you obviously keep your injuries in mind, keep your ability in mind, all those things, but you just scale it back. So if he is doing 10 to 12 reps to put on muscle on his chest, you do 10 to 12 reps as well. So if he's eating, say, 2 kilos of chicken a day and, say, 40 egg whites or 40 eggs a day or taking all that, you just scale it back to your level. So you eat maybe, 300 grams of chicken, maybe 100 grams of fish, have a few nuts and all that. He trains 4 hours a day. You train an hour a day. You train for 45. The principles fundamentally don't change.
Just scale. It's just a ratio.
Either way, a lot of chickens have still got to die, right?
Either way.
But I also think that genetics also plays a role, because I think that even if I was to do the same training protocol and bang up all the pharmaceuticals, because surely bodybuilding now there is, I think that, look, I watched
is a rife.
Yeah, I watched a great interview with Dorian Yates on London Real. Shout out to Brian Rose. And it was no one expected him to come out. I mean, I think steroids in bodybuilding, particularly at a professional level, is something it's been the worst kept secret, I guess. And he came out and was very candid about it, and it really blew a lot of people away. Not just with his use over the years while he was, I think it was Mr. 05 times or something like that.
Yeah.
But in the current day, and so but I think genetics certainly has got to play a role, because even if I do all the stuff that Phil Heath does,
there's no question. Here's something that anyone and everyone can do is, you can walk into a gym, you can have the best genetics on the planet, you can walk into a gym, you can train like an absolute bodybuilder, whether you're a male or a female, whoever, you can follow the best diets, you are not going to look like a Hulk. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, muscle is a degenerative tissue, right? It's not like fat. When you put fat on, it stays on. If the lesser you do, the more it stays on, the more it actually builds. Muscle is on the opposite side. So when you don't do it, so let's say you're one of those super genetically gifted guys, or women.
Is that like The Rock?
Rock said that he's never taken anything. Well, he must have very good genetics. He does.
He's like the perfect.
Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, he's like the perfect person.
Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah.
Well, look, Dwayne Johnson. I mean, he obviously, all these big guys that you see across the globe, whoever it is, they all have good genetics to begin with. There's no question about it, And then when you throw in the mix of PEDs and anabolic steroids and all that, they're very critical. People deny all that. There are a lot of fake natural bodybuilders going around the world and saying 12-week transformations. You've certainly
been very vocal and cool, and good on. And good on you. I mean, I think a lot of people, like I said, are just hushed about it. But
one thing I want to say is, actually, this is to alleviate the fear of the common person. Is, please do not hesitate to walk into a gym and bust your ass, pardon my language, and go nuts. Eat like a bodybuilder. Eat like anything. And if you are one of those 1 in 10,000 genetically gifted people or women that you actually look at the dumbbells and you grow, here's something very simple to do. You think you're putting a lot of muscle? This is the mistake that a lot of women make. Even guys, I'm putting a lot of muscle. Get lean first and see how much muscle you have. Or don't tell me that you're putting on muscle like there's no tomorrow. No, if you got a 6-pack and you're still growing and your muscles are popping out of your ears, then okay, maybe you were one of those, you got some genetic mutation, a myostatin inhibition that, you're just going to grow, that's different. But for 99.99% population, here's a simple thing to do. You think you're putting a lot of muscle? Back off. Stop lifting weights for a week and your muscles will start to shrink. Simple as that. It's not like you've ended up looking like that and you can't reverse it. It's a simple fix. So any female, any male, young, old, obviously you have to tailor make it to your body, what you can do, what your ability is, what your lifestyle is, what your food you can afford, what supplements you can afford, all those variables. But the takeaway point is, do not fear any level of weight training. Actually, the more weight training you will do, if you're a female especially, if you're an older guy, the lesser chance of your osteoporosis is going to be, because resistance training pulls on your joints and pulls on your bones, and which actually contributes to osteoblasts, which contributes to bone regeneration. So actually, if you walk into any modern physio rehab centers, old age centers, they're actually all making these 70-year-old, 80-year-old women doing resistance training.
It's interesting. I found out the other day from Steve Maxwell, who we'll get on next year, that the biggest cause of death in the world today is not cancer, it's not diabetes, it's falling.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And a lot of people fall because of what you said: poor muscle tone, poor brittle bones, just from lack of resistance training, or at least some resistance training.
But here's the thing: so if somebody walks into a gym and they want to start, like somebody that, going back to your first question, somebody walks into a gym who's never done anything, I said, you can't run, you walk. You can't walk, you crawl. You can't crawl, sit in a chair and get someone to push you. As long as you're moving forward. So if people say, I'm 100 kilos, I've never lifted, walk into the gym and do whatever you can. Do a leg press. If you can't do a squat, do a leg press. People say leg press is not something.
Walk to the gym.
Go and lift anything. Do a seated chest press, lat pull down. People say that's not functional. What is functional? Functional is anything that's going to help you lead a better lifestyle and get your goals.
I saw a bodybuilding technique when I was a kid, and I've always wanted to know if this is possible.
Sure.
This guy, when he was young, he was chained to like this pulley system. It's like a big log, right? And it's just spinning around, and he just walks around and around and around for about 6 years. And then when he came up, he was like the same size as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Is that possible? Just by being tied to a... He was whipped as well. It was Conan the Barbarian. So he was tied to a... And when it flashed forward, he was like Mr. Olympia. Is that possible?
Look,
I'm sorry, just keep going. Don't even answer it. Don't worry about it. I'm just fucking around.
In Hollywood, in Arnold Schwarzenegger, anything is possible.
I think one of the other things that is interesting is that people's intent behind what they train. Like a lot of bodybuilders that I've come across, I've found very insecure, and it usually comes from a place of some girl broke their heart, or the old Charles Atlas getting kicked, 90-pound week and getting kicked the sand in the face.
It's like that saying, instead of being a bodybuilder, just be nicer, and just people will help you lift things.
But seems like that's kind of short term. I mean, when it's just coming more of a place of ego, as opposed to like, well, I'm doing this for health, and everything else then becomes a. How about intent, Harry? What do you think about people? Like, how important is intent behind your training, or do you think if you can still be egotistical and still be okay at this?
I think that's a great question. There's another addition to it because I've analyzed things over the last 15 years, and all these questions probably you're asking, I think I've discussed this 100 times, or I've gone over it. Intent is very important. Intent, attitude, work ethic, all these things. But I like to add another very important element to your ultimate success in anything. And that is, we were having this discussion many years ago, I remember about 10 years ago, and people say, what's the number one attribute or a quality you want in your client? And 2 or 3 things invariably always come to the fore with things like these, or attitude, work ethic, commitment, dedication. These are the words, they're all interconnected, and you can use them interchangeably. But I like to add another thing, and this is going back to my first thing that I said, it's the ability to do things. To me, the number one thing that you need is to be successful in anything is the ability. So I could have the best intent that I want to be the best bodybuilder of all time, or I want to be strong. But if I actually can't actually execute an exercise after like 100 attempts, it does not matter how good my intent is. But if I haven't got the ability to back it up, it's not going to work. So intent, and once again, see, this is a fine line. If you look at some of the most successful people on the planet, they have from time to time showed varied levels of arrogance. You can classify it as arrogance, and you ask them, and they say, I just back myself. You know, like I think Muhammad Ali probably was one of the first people to actually bring it to the fore, to actually openly go, I'm going to whoop his ass and I'm going to back myself and I'm going to like, who is George Foreman? You know, I think he was the first person on a larger scale who actually got that much media exposure to actually to propose that theory. And I think where Arnold Schwarzenegger admits in one of his interviews, actually he had a lot of influence on him growing up.
Fortunately, Muhammad Ali was pretty funny as well. His comedy was excellent.
His comedy was excellent. He was very sharp with regard. So I think you need that level of self-assurance. I mean, I've come from that place, where I was very, I don't think I was ever overly arrogant, but I always backed myself, and I still do.
I think it's required, but yeah.
But that people walking around like they king shit, and they think they fucking shit doesn't stink. Part of my language, you know. That's just obnoxious. There's always going to be somebody who's bigger, better, faster, stronger, richer, more successful than you.
And that's in every single thing. It's not just in gyms. It's not in powerlifting. It's not in. It's everywhere. It's in everything. Everything.
I think that, and people, I think, energetically pick up on that when they're dealing with people. There's that thing of where people. It's one thing to come from authority, and another thing to come from a place of authenticity. And so, and I think people that come from that authentic place, people just energetically pick up on that.
But it's saying to answer that add to that question, like, there's a long-held perception of, females are more weight obsessed and all that. Come and see my male clients. They'll blow your mind. They'll go from 101 kilos to 99.9 kilos, and they'll be freaking out. Bro, I've gone below 100 kilos, bro. Lost weight. How much? 200 grams, man. So I drink half a liter of water. You'll be above 100 kilos again. No, man, I think I lost a bit of muscle.
Yeah, I think, but I think but the self-esteem in general, I think is just. I don't want to use the word plague, but I think that is with most people walking around. It's the biggest challenge in life, and self-esteem is everything. I think once people have that or have a better handle on it, I don't know. I don't know if anyone. Maybe there are people that have. I don't know, again, how do you quantify what's 100% in those stakes? But certainly there are people that have a higher level of it than others, but it's an ongoing thing. However, I think there is some kind of this kind of proportionate thing to people who have high self-esteem generally tend to do better in any area of life, whether it's financial or physical or emotional or whatever, and those who don't,
I'd be curious to see what the gym membership, how gym memberships would drop if mankind had an overnight self-esteem lift. How many people would go, I'm not going to do this.
I don't know. I would look. It's just my theory. I think if there still would be, because people with high self-esteem still care about themselves enough to say, you know what, I'm doing this from a place of for my health, for health benefits, not from a vanity perspective. So I don't think. Yes, look, definitely you go to some gyms and you see these guys walking around and they're flexing it in the mirror and what have you and whatnot. But having said that, those guys typically, I'm being very general now. Generally speaking, I think are the guys who usually come from that low self-esteem place. With the guys who hold themselves well, they know it. They
show up, they do their shit, and they fuck off.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So,
nutrition. Let's get to nutrition while we've got time.
Yeah, you're gonna bust any myths or anything? Just fire away. Any topic.
Let's do this vitamin D thing.
Hit it.
Okay. We've been having this on Melbourne Real. Our motto is the research continues, because we're always interested in and always trying to learn and new things. And so vitamin D is something that we've been talking about, and I think I may have miscommunicated something a while ago about vitamin D protocol. A friend of mine, Sloth, who will get on the show one day, was talking about a protocol that he picked up from this Dr. Mark, someone in Texas. Sorry, I can't remember the guy's name. Okay. But basically his protocol was 40,000 IU of vitamin D3 per day. However, what I didn't explain properly or with the clarity was that for people that had very, very little, were very low, and then get it up to, I think, 127 with the level is whatever, and then maintain. Charles Pollock, when I was reading about, was saying that he's saying 1,000 IU per 25 pounds of body weight. So someone like myself, well, okay, so I'm taking 10,000 IU a day, maybe a little more. I'm at 110 kilos or whatever it is now. So what, 220 pounds in that. So 10,000 IU a day is what has been recommended. What do you think is there a in terms of vitamin D, because it's very important vitamin?
Very, very simple answer. Very simple answer. You know, there've been decades worth of research, decades worth of efforts, multi-million dollars worth of equipments developed. You know, scientists have spent 100 years developing things. And sometimes answers are a lot simpler than what we make them to be. I'll explain to you why. Get a blood test. How hard is it?
Yep.
Go get a blood test, see what your values are, jump on a protocol, you do it in 12 weeks' time. And then I'm still a firm believer, unless there is a good, solid reason that if you reach the top end of your vitamin D levels, you're sitting there, I need to be very convinced that abusing my body and actually putting more in my body, let's say, okay, 150 is the top end. Okay, some research says, okay, you can go up to 160 above top end. Going beyond that, it really, I mean,
defeats the purpose.
Defeats the purpose. It's like you've got a car, you've topped up the engine oil. Why would you keep putting more in it? Yeah. I just don't see the benefit of it. I mean, I have a very simple philosophy. There are protocols where people pinch your skin and all that, tell you that your testosterone is sitting here, your estrogen here. You know what? Go get a blood test. How hard is it? I'm always going to believe in something that can be quantitatively, qualitatively, objectively measured rather than subjective and it's individual skill reliant. I am not going to rely on something. I don't care whether you have 10,000 IU. I've seen people being given 40,000 IU, but they were bloody chronically low. Yes, vitamin D helps with your hormone production. Vitamin D helps with your testosterone production. Vitamin D helps with the visceral fat. There's research to support vitamin D actually helps you burn belly fat. And I have done these protocols myself where I've seen clients.
And can I just add, it helps with the sex drive, just quietly.
The testosterone.
And obviously calcium absorption and staying alkaline.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So the answer to that is, look, I take 2,000 IUs a day. My vitamin D levels are fine.
Yeah, I'm the same, 2,000.
Yeah, 2,000 IUs a day. My vitamin D levels are fine. You know, they're nearly at the top end. Yeah, I could go up to 4,000. So
I scale it up in the winter.
I need to be very, very convinced that just sticking 40,000 IUs in my body every day, like when the recommended dose, okay, we know the scientific community is conservative and they're often 10 years behind functional medicine and all that. That's all well and good. But to put something 40 times more in my body, I need to be very convinced.
Yeah.
No.
So all right. So in terms of nutrition, Harry, what's again to the layperson who is watching and listening, wants to start on a healthier protocol, what would be just a good generic starting point?
Basics.
Look, here's the thing. I go back to the mind. You know what is the most ironic thing? A most ironic thing is, in Western countries, 90% people know 90% of things that they should be doing it, and they don't do it 90% of the times. You know, you ask someone, how can you make your diet and lifestyle better? Oh, I shouldn't be having this another coffee. Oh, I shouldn't be having this drink. I shouldn't be eating. People know. It's not that they don't know. You know, people know that they should not be doing it. They do still doing it. So it's not that they don't know. So fix their minds. That's the problem. The challenge I can appreciate is when you've got a person who's near six-pack and is doing everything, and then that's an individualized base. No advice me sitting here is going to help them because it's a case-by-case study. Somebody needs to lose 40 kilos. Any diet will work. Some will work faster, some will work slower.
Right, but surely there needs to be, when you get someone onto a program, you surely are recommending some key things. Surely, if you're doing a workout every day, surely magnesium's got to come under this.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so to give some tangible takeaway keys, right? Detox yourself. Look after your body. Fiber is very important. Always supplement fiber. Look after your liver. Things like chlorophyll, lemon water, all that sort of stuff. You know. in terms of your I never ask my clients or anyone to weigh their veggies, green veggies. You can never eat too many. Don't count calories from your green veggies. Protein.
Meat, red meat. What's your take on protein?
Protein, if you live in Western countries and you can lay your hands on organic grass-fed, don't worry about organic red meat. Organic red meat means nothing. It could be like they could be feeding the cows organic grain, which is actually canned, but the cows aren't supposed to be bloody eating the grain in the first place.
Yeah.
So you saying organic red meat red meat means jack shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to have a go tonight. So, organic red meat means nothing. Organic grass-fed, yes, I would much rather buy an organic grass-fed. I would much rather buy a grass-fed beef than even organic, whatever.
Biodynamic.
It means nothing.
Plus the redder the meat, the more of that sugar that's in it.
And they also
gluten. Once again, I think this is out there. I'm going to put it out there. Don't eat gluten. Anyway, it's every single person. It doesn't matter whether you can tolerate it or not. Gluten should be just avoided on wholesale. Simple as that. A blanket approach. Yeah, I'm going to put my neck on the chopping line. That's my take. Gluten, you don't need it. Have your toast once or twice a week or whatever. You want to go out for brekkie. That's fine. Almonds. Avoid. Another best investment you can make on yourself is filtered water. Buy a good filter. Don't drink fluoride water. Don't drink fluoride. Bloody use toothpaste. Simple things. You don't need to.
Hydration.
You don't need to be eating 6 meals a day. It's an absolute myth that eating somehow 6 meals a day speeds up your metabolism. That's absolute garbage. It does not speed up your metabolism.
What speeds it up?
So the only thing that speeds up your metabolism is putting on more muscle, increasing activity, looking after your hormones. These 3 things and sleep.
That increasing the activity, let's talk about that just for a second. So you're talking about somebody who doesn't go to a gym at all, but just say runs 5Ks a day. Does that help as far as?
Running is actually inherently an aging process. Running will actually age you faster than you can imagine.
How so?
How so is because it's creating a lot of oxidative stress on your body. Okay. I actually heard Paul Chek, who's one of the gurus out there, and I've got a lot of respect for him. Yes, some of his theories become a bit airy-fairy for my liking personally, and so he'll ask you, once you got an elbow pain, so he'll ask you, did you have a fight with your grandma when you were 5 years old?
Oh, so that's kinesiology though.
Yeah,
it's a kinesiology.
So he puts a lot of that. I mean, look, it's open for debate, so I won't get into that, but so he's pretty well respected, and I respect a lot of his theories as well. And
so you're advising against running?
Yeah, he said this is the generation which has got the most fit sick people. So what happens is when you're running, you're creating a lot of oxidative stress. You're burning a lot of muscle as well. So if you're actually necessarily the less muscle you're going to have, the quicker you will age. So
more muscle, you'll age quicker with less muscle.
Less muscle, you'll age quicker, and the more quickly the chances of your osteoporosis. Everything in moderation is the key. If you're running, you got to balance it with weight training as well, resistance training as well. So then you got to load up your diet on antioxidants and things like that. Humans aren't designed to do endurance running. We're not designed to run for extended periods of time. We are designed to do a sprint, run after something, because extended running jacks up your adrenals, puts too much strain on your adrenals, jacks up your cortisol. All those things inversely age you, stress you, affect your sleep and all that. I'm not against it, but you've got to manage it. But I mean, I was talking to a woman yesterday. She's in the gym at the expense of sleep. I'm saying this is counterproductive. Your body is already tired. Go home and sleep. You'll actually get better results.
So but you must do aerobic training, surely.
I do aerobic training. It has to be for fat loss.
Right.
My advice to people who want to lose fat, here's the thing: walk as much walking as you can do. People always confuse with, too much cardio is going to make you fat. Walking is the pound for pound, calorie for calorie, fat loss gram by gram. Walking is the number one activity on the planet when it comes to burning pure fat. Nothing. There's plenty of research I studied in my degree, and there's plenty of research out there. You can see it. People often confuse walking with aerobic activities that you're doing and medium to high heart rate. So going and doing a Zumba, going and doing an aerobic class. Because there what's happening is your heart rate is much higher. It's close to like 70-80%. So when you're actually chronically doing something for 45 minutes at nearly 80% of your heart rate, your fuel actually, it becomes anaerobic. So you're actually not ingesting any oxygen. You're actually not really burning any body fat as such in the time, in the activity during the... Because it's anaerobic and you're not ingesting oxygen, what's going to happen? You're going to start chewing into your muscle. And your cortisol's up because the body is thinking you're running from a lion or a tiger or something's trying to kill you.
It's interesting if you look at athletes, for example, like the physique of a marathon runner as opposed to a sprinter.
And it's
So the sprinters
same
for
way. You
running,
walk into an aerobics class.
So maybe for those who do a lot of running, maybe incorporating more sprints
Absolutely.
as opposed to just
balance it out. You know,
some body weight exercises. Maybe I don't know.
It's so for an average person, walk as much as you can. You can't go to the gym, just walk. You know, you want to do a couple of sprints in a week, do sprints, do stair runs or something like that. But chronic, extended, long duration running inherently is counterproductive.
What's the definition of long duration?
Long duration is anything above 20 minutes.
Anything about, okay, right.
Anything about 20 minutes.
Sure.
You know, 10, 20 minutes a day, your body can handle it. But anything above 20 minutes, then you really got to fuel well. Make sure you actually ingesting carbohydrates during the activity as well. So you actually, yes, your glycogen stores will play a part. But if you're oftentimes what happens is the harder people are dieting, the harder they're training, they're burning the candle from both ends. So, you're chronically low in when people diet hard, what happens? They drop their carbohydrates inherently. 9 out of 10 diets, you're going to say, I'm dieting super hard. First thing to go is carbs. First thing to go with carbs is then your glycogen stores are down. So then when you ramp up your activity, then you ramp up your training, all you're doing is you're burning the candle from both ends, because if you're low on glycogen stores, your insulin, you're not releasing insulin as high as often as you need to be. So your cortisol starts to go up. Chronically, your cortisol is up. So that's why you often see the harder people diet, the harder sometimes they're finding to get lean. So if they backed off their training a little bit, and they backed, my competitors, when I actually get them, I'm giving away a fucking work secret or a trade secret, but that's fine. The harder my competitors actually train, the closer they get to the show, the less hard they're training. Their training intensity actually drop, and their cardio actually becomes, if they were doing any interval or sprints or anything, it becomes just walking. They're strictly banned from running. The harder you're dieting, think about it. It's the body at the end of the day. It's going to shut down eventually. For an average person, I always say, but once again, if you're not doing anything, anything's going to help, man. Just get on and run.
Sure.
I'm not against running, but if you're talking about pure, for simple routine, if somebody's only got 45 minutes or 30 minutes a day to train, that is all they can afford. I'll still say 25 minutes of compound movement, things like your squats and lat pull downs and deadlifts. And if you can do deadlifts, then do deadlifts, but safe compound movement. Finish off with 5 minutes of high intensity interval cardio. Jump on a rower, 20 seconds hard, 20 seconds easy, 8 minutes, 10 rounds over 5 minutes, bang, you're done. 30 minutes in and out. And you can do same exercise every day. You can hit the muscle groups every day, right? There's no issue. It's not like you train. If you're doing a whole body for 30 minutes, you can train that every day. No problems at all.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I think on that note, we're going to go. And it's been a great podcast. Thanks, Harry.
Not a problem at all.
Best of luck with your trip to India. And so just tell us the dates, please.
The dates are on.
Where can they? Where's the website or the information? Where can they find the information?
All the information is on my Facebook page on Team Boss Bodybuilding or Harry Sandhu. It's on the Facebook page. But the dates are 27th, I'm in Delhi, 28th, 29th, I'm presenting an expo. First is in Kolkata. Second, I'm in Hyderabad. And then 4th, I'm in Mangalore. 6th, I'm in Mumbai. 7th, I'm in Chennai. And then I'm doing a few consults here and there in between. So it's pretty busy and full on. Last thing, you can eat your carbohydrates at night. It's perfectly okay. If you're going to eat your carbs at one meal a day, outside training, around training, have your carbs at night time. You'll enjoy it. Best thing you can do.
Beautiful.
Contrary to the popular belief.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much, Harry. It's been great having you on.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Good luck with your seminars in India, and
thanks very much, guys.
Hopefully we'll get you back on next year.
And next time we can just sort of make it a bit more technical and just talk all about nutrition myths and everything, and bang, 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 all about it.
Sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
done. Okay, thanks again, Harry.
Thank you.
You still doing the Twitters?
No, I mean, but don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
All right,
Downthemess.com,
well,
y'all.
Okay, well, Twitter for me, Jack_the_bear. Tony, Jack the Bear Mantz is my Facebook. And so if you guys want to check me out there, be more than happy to connect. All right.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone. And before we go, as we always say, be nice to each other, but more importantly, be nice to yourself. Over and out.
See ya.